What kind of English teacher are you becoming? That might sound like a bit of a personal question, but it's actually also a professional one as well, because being a TESOL practitioner is actually all about identity. What do you believe English is? What do you think language teaching is for? Do you see yourself as a grammar expert, as a communicative facilitator, a cultural mediator, or an academic language teacher, or something entirely different from that? And here is the harder question. Does your teaching context actually allow you to become the teacher that you want to be? In this episode, we are talking about TESOL teacher identity. We'll look at how English teachers are shaped by training, by institutions, and a lot more, because teaching becomes part of who you are. Okay, let's get started. And Ida, what does teacher identity mean to you?
It's a very good question. And before I try to answer the question based on my understanding of teacher identity as an academic, I'd like to really reflect on my own journey as well, initially a language teacher and a teacher educator, and how my identity really changed. And I can see that, it's been through a lot of transitions, depending on how I understood language and how I learned a language myself to start with, and what sort of teacher training I received, to
Yeah.
the type of learners I had, the type of context in which I taught language. And all of these factors affected my identity, the way I understood language and language learning, and how that shaped my identity as a language teacher and a teacher educator, and how I practice that, as a practitioner. So this is my personal, obviously, take of, teacher identity. To basically, in a nutshell, it's determined by many factors.
Yeah.
It's very fluid,
Yeah.
and it's very dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. And but identity is about other people around you, isn't it? And the mirrors that they hold up to you and what they reflect back to you. So how you
Oh,
see
yes.
yourself in relation to others. I think when I started out as an English language teacher, I had just done my CELTA. Like, if you want to know more about that, we have an episode on that you can have a look at. And after the CELTA, I very much felt like my identity was to enforce some rules about how we speak English. And actually, I wasn't quite the right person to do it because I didn't have like that received pronunciation and that kind of stuff. So I think I probably felt like a bit like a charlatan, and I should be a bit of a police officer. And also, like, I didn't really know that much about the grammar rules, so I did feel like a bit of a fraud as well. So I think that's how my one started out. But like you say, teacher identity is about becoming, isn't it? It's not fixed. It's a dynamic process of transformation. Yeah,
100%.
yeah. Let's have a think
And on
then.
that note,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go, Ida. You go.
no, no, I was going to say, and on that note, we have actually read a paper related to the topic. And a lot of what we have thought about, language identity, and what we have seen about language identity in our profession has been resonated in the paper. So would you like to tell us what the
Yeah,
paper
so
is? That we
this paper is from the Review of Education, which is published as part of BERA. BERA is the British Educational Research Association. This paper is open access, so we'll put a link to it in the show notes, and you can go and read it for yourself if you want. It was only published in 2023, so it's fairly new, and the authors are Rushton et al. What's great about this paper is that it's a systematic literature review. Now, I love systematic literature
we all
reviews.
love
Why
systematic
do we love
review.
them? Why do we love them? We love it because someone's gone and done a ton of reading and found tons of stuff in a particular area,
Yeah.
and it's just super helpful. And there's a lot of issues in here, and it's education more broadly, but we're going to think about how those issues can be applied to TESOL. So, Ida, what stood out for you in this paper, which our viewer might want to know about?
course, a lot stood out for me in this paper. I had lots of moments thinking, yes, exactly. Oh, yes. But I'm going to start with one of the first points that I felt like, oh, yeah, that is so true. I have experienced that myself as a language learner. I have experienced it as a researcher working in the field. And that is that the fact that teacher identity, and I think I said that, is dynamic. It's
Yeah.
not fixed. So
Yeah.
teachers in our context, their identities change as they move between classrooms, countries, institutions, learner groups, and even teaching philosophies. So it's really fluid, it's really dynamic. And they may begin with one idea of English teaching pedagogy and develop a very different one through practice. So to acknowledge that and to know that, I think is very important because that encourages some level of openness. That be
Yes.
prepared for that. That's okay. That happens. It's quite common. And be open to that, to embrace it. And that's actually a journey of growth, I'd like to call it, for any language teacher, and be open to that growth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think
So
that's really, really important. And something that stood out to me from this really interesting paper is the professional communities aspect of it. And we've already touched on that, like your identity is shaped by other people and other institutions and what you identify with, what they reflect back to you. And this paper talked a bit about like the importance of colleagues, mentors, teacher, educators going to conferences, being able to share ideas and develop good practice. Like, how do you even see yourself as a good teacher unless you have other teachers around you to compare yourself to, or to give you the what's the word I'm looking for? Like, give you the like tell you, oh, that was a really great class. To give you that confirmation or that
yes.
validation, maybe is the word that I'm looking for.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the validation. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
It's all
also
about
important.
becoming.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, you
Yeah,
get.
yeah. It's all about, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. So it's all about becoming, right? So, and that becoming is affected by many factors, as we kind of mentioned some of them. Yeah, the kind of contextual factor is very, very important.
Yeah.
Well, in a way, as the paper also argues, context shapes identity. So it's really at the heart of their argument as well. That's,
For sure, for sure.
TESOL
So
makes,
much, so much
yeah,
context in everything we talk about in every episode. Is almost always about context. Yeah.
yes.
Is there something else that stood out to
Mhm.
you in the paper?
Oh, lots of other things. I know that we need to be selective and we can't cover all of them. And we have pinned the paper, like Vicky said, it's open access. So you can always go and have a look at the paper, which we highly recommend. But there are a couple of other points that I think are worth mentioning in our discussion. One of them is that conflict is central to
Mm,
professional identity. I
yes.
really like
Yeah.
that point that in that the authors argue that a TESOL teacher may value the communicative, inclusive, multilingual, or student-centered pedagogy, right? So that's what a TESOL teacher thinks is or it believes in or thinks that is important. But that very teacher is working in a context where priorities are different.
Yeah.
So grammar accuracy is important. Exam scores is very exam oriented, which a lot of my students at least find themselves in. They come here, we provide them with teacher education, we talk about the importance of autonomy, learner
Yeah.
centeredness, etc., etc. They go back to the realities of their classroom and they're like, it's so exam oriented,
Yeah.
and standard of English, native speakerism models, blah blah blah. And that can create identity conflict. Where am I standing
Yeah.
as a language teacher? What I believe is not in line with the actual practice I'm asked to offer in my context. So, yes,
Yeah.
conflict is central
Yeah.
to your
And
identity.
one thing that you can happen to you as well is that you have a set of beliefs which you've learned about, or you've gathered them and constructed them through your education and your training, and then that training or that identity hits the heart, like what's the expression, like hits the harsh light of reality. I can't think what the expression is I want to use,
Oh, yeah.
and then you have
Rock
conflict.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite. it's quite a shock to the self, and it can also be like really demoralizing. It's a real aspect of becoming a professional that there'll be lots of things which you will be disappointed in, and it's how you
Yeah.
deal with that disappointment, how you navigate through that disappointment, which is part of your identity as well. And I think it's something which is
Yes.
very under discussed in our field, and something that maybe
Very. Mhm.
a lot of or you might want to go and investigate if you're going to do a dissertation or a research project.
Absolutely. And that is very important, not only because it exists and needs to be acknowledged, but also because how it can be closely linked to well-being.
Yeah.
Because there's a
Yes.
conflict, right? And it can be challenging, can challenge us mentally. And in fact, that's a point that the authors in the paper also talk about, that when teachers cannot teach in ways that align with their values, this can often affect their confidence and their motivation, their well-being, all these wonderful buzzwords for any, research project that you may be thinking of. And whether they kind of even they remain in the profession, it can actually result in burnout and attrition, which are very common, can affect that kind of side of mental health.
And that's why having that supportive community to be part of is really important. If you have a mentor, or
Yeah.
you're able to go to a conference and discuss things, or you have a class, or no, not a class, a staff room of some kind where you can have constructive conversations with other people, or you can even vent about things which are frustrating you. So there's some interesting points in this paper about well-being, and I'm really, really happy and to see this is a really welcome contribution here, because something which we don't talk about enough.
Absolutely. And it's so, so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's think then about any sort of questions which the viewer might want to take forward. So they might want to take it into like some planning for a research project, or they might want to reflect on their own practice. Ida, was there anything that came to mind for you that we could pitch as a kind of question?
Something that I kind of thought about, which can encourage us to reflect really on our own journey of becoming, is that how do our colleagues, mentors, I don't know, teacher trainers, and professional communities, so far, wherever we are in our journey as a language educator, how they have shaped the kind of TESOL teacher we've become? It's a very good question to reflect on.
Oh, I like that one a lot. One that I had thought, and it's maybe kind of similar. I'm thinking about my own experience here about, you know, like when we think about exams. So how do exams, standard English, native speaker norms, and curriculum demands shape teacher identity? Because I know that when I started to research, or not even before I started to research, when I started to read much more about English as an international language, for instance, and English as a lingua franca, and these ideas, theories, concepts really spoke to me because I already felt kind of uncomfortable with a lot of my own teacher identity as the enforcer of the English only classroom, as then the police officer to make sure that that was happening, to not really feeling like the genuine product that or the commodity that the students wanted. And then when I engaged with that discourse community, I guess, of English as an international language, etc., I kind of thought, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be, because I agree with all of this, and this gives me a sense of a much kind of more free sense of validation about, yes, I am allowed to teach this language because I know it really well. I'm also a really good teacher, but also then it changed how I saw our materials that we had to use. So my identity shifted a lot with that. And I kind of thought, I can't teach this stuff anymore. I'm not going to, these rules are not rigid like they say they are in the book. Someone has made this up and published it, etc. So that's a question I had, but that one really spoke to me. I don't know how you feel about that, Ida. What do you think?
Actually, a very good question. I think, like you said, um, and I think that goes back to what we discussed in relation to conflict. So, where we are standing, what expertise are we bringing, what is our belief, and what are the expectations and the context in which we are teaching. And it is worth really reflecting on and thinking. It's actually even, again, it's even useful for helpful for our mental health,
Yeah.
even to know where we are standing and to what extent we agree to what we are asked to do, and how can we really navigate our way through, contrasting values itself can actually contribute to our mental health and well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I think just a final question, which is quite a simple one, which I thought might be useful, was how do your beliefs about English shape the way that you teach? And that's just a very good starting point to get yourself into this discussion, just to reflect and think about. We're all driven by beliefs, all of us, all the time. So what are yours, and how are these driving you? Okay, so to kind of wrap this up, then, do we have anything like a PDF to share this time, Ida?
Yes, we have another handout. If you have seen our other videos where we kind of discuss hot topics in the field, we often offer a handout to take away with, in which we offer some questions, reflective questions for you to really think about as practitioners. Also, questions maybe to consider to pursue in your master's, dissertation, or PhD thesis. I know I have a few students who are working on teacher identity, and in the past few years, that's been a hot topic that I can see that is coming up a lot in the field. So we've got you covered in that sense. We've got some really, really interesting questions for you to think about, both
Excellent.
in terms.
So if you want to get the PDF, go to the comments, drop a comment in, and at the end of the comment, you can put teacher identity. And then we'll get in touch with you and we'll share our PDF with you. Okay, if you think this episode was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You might be interested in some of our other videos, for instance, this one on post-method pedagogy. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you, and see you later.